So EMDR was recommended to me when I had about 2 years clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. I was in my graduate program, and I noticed that I was being pretty severely triggered, not by kids and teenagers I was working with in my internship site, but the way I saw the system treat a lot of kids and teenagers. And I noticed, and some other friends close to me helped me notice, a real increase in my dissociative tendencies, kind of met with distress and triggering. And one of my friends directly did an intervention on me and said, you're going to need to do more counseling. And part of my cynical answer is, but I know all the 12-step slogans I should be applying. I feel like I have the bubble dot answers to the CBT worksheets mastered. What else is there? And at the time, a professor gave me a card for a therapist in Boardman, Ohio named Janet Thornton, who was one of the first to bring EMDR to this area. And the professor said, go see Janet. She does all the weird stuff. And so at that point, I also knew Janet was a chemical dependency counselor and had a good understanding of addiction. And she had me pegged as an EMDR case right away and recommended it. And I was very much in a place where I was 2 years clean and sober. I did not want to lose my sobriety, but I still struggled with things like chronic suicidal ideation. I struggled with this rising tide of dissociation and dissociative symptoms coming up in me. And I really wanted to heal from that because I didn't want to lose my sobriety. So that almost felt like a good motivation I had to give this new therapy a try.
So how do you feel about specialty protocols for addiction specifically?
So I get this question a lot when people find out I work with addiction as a specialty and that it's a big part of my story. Which ones do you like? Do you like to tour? Do you like FSAP? Do you like Cravex? Whatever it may be. But I've never used one of these specialty protocols without it seeming to immediately necessitate use of the standard protocol. And maybe it's because I think the standard protocol is so robust, so grounded in mindfulness skills that for me, it's really all you need as long as you know where to point it. So part of what that means when it applies to addiction is recognizing that a lot of the roadblocks that people may experience to their recovery process can actually be explored as themes upon which you can open up EMDR targets. So for example, a common roadblock that a lot of individuals in recovery or who are trying to attain recovery may face is I cannot deal with my feelings without alcohol, without drugs, without cigarettes. Fill in the blank of what the addiction or the dependence or the behavioral compulsivity may be. And so you can use that spirit of float back to get at some touchstone memories or relevant memories that may be connected to that thing that's really keeping a person from attaining recovery, sobriety, whatever their goal may be in the first place. So for example, you can float back, I cannot deal with my feelings without alcohol. It may go back to an incident when you were 14 and there were all kind of horrific feelings coming up around what was going on in your home. But as is the case in a lot of alcoholic homes, the 3 unwritten rules are things like don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And so all those things are antithetical to processing, right? And healing and helping. And along the way, when you first tried weed or first tried alcohol, you may have learned, well, that helps. And so we can certainly look at that as a memory to target. Even if you're not targeting the earliest or the worst memory, let's say of pervasive abuse or the most impacting traumatic experience, the brain is generally going to take a person where it needs to go when it comes to really anything in EMDR. And I find that with recovering folks, the standard protocol is often all that you need as long as you understand that you may have to be looking at the recovery issues first in your case conceptualization, but realizing that those can be treated with the standard EMDR protocol. In general, when you're dealing with addiction, dissociation, complex trauma, phase 2 needs to be more robust. If you've heard me teach before, you know I am a big proponent that one calm, safe place is not going to cut it. And not only do preparation skills need to involve tools like grounding and mindfulness and possibly expressive arts and other embodied practices to help a person be able to handle what may come up, that the use of some time-honored recovery skills can certainly be very appropriately blended into phase 2. For some people, meetings, self-help groups are part of their path. For other people, it may be just a commitment to lifestyle change. Because even though I am very pro 12-step in my approach, one thing I found is that something all the different recovery programs have in common is a commitment to lifestyle change. So what is that person willing to do to make some changes on a day-to-day basis, and how can you leverage motivation? So obviously your bells may be ringing in your head. Well, can motivational interviewing work together with EMDR? Totally. And I just believe that so many of the things we do already for recovery are already natural matches into phase 2 preparation. And I think that where a lot of folks are missing the boat, are missing the proverbial boat, I should say, are when we think, well, I know EMDR, so I just have to apply that with an addict and it's going to clear up the addiction issues automatically. And even though there's a greater understanding about the interplay between trauma and addiction, you may find that you're very much over your head when you just try to target something without understanding the larger context of addiction that's around it, without helping prepare a person to handle what may come up in the body. I think another imperative here in phase 2 preparation is helping people to notice the signs of craving in their body, to notice what their relapse triggers are, and to develop a plan accordingly. And of course, some of the EMDR phase 2 skills can be used here. I use LifeStream quite a bit with slow dual attention stimulus or bilateral stimulation to help a person kind of manage the signs of craving. So obviously, the more robust preparation is a big thing that I advocate when you're doing EMDR with a client who has any types of issues around recovery. And I think the other thing that needs to be looked at is, where is a person at in their stage of change? The whole idea of the stages of change model is very well known in the addiction counseling arena. The idea of, you can have contemplative, pre-contemplative clients who think you have the problem, I don't have a problem. Maybe when you're dealing with contemplation, maybe you have a point. Maybe I do drink a little too much. But then once the person is more in a preparation stage of change, that's when I tend to automatically get a little more proactive in what I do with phases 3 through 7 reprocessing strategies. But I generally find when a person is pre-contemplative or contemplative, you're best served. You could still be doing EMDR, phases 1 and 2, where it's more about getting to know the person, getting a grounding in the relationship, building skills for distress tolerance, and helping an individual manage craving, maybe helping them refine what their goals may be. But I do think if you are interested in doing EMDR in any way, or more advanced phases of EMDR with individuals who struggle with addiction or dependence, you have to have a strong grounding in the stages of change first. And that will also help you make some decisions about when a person is sufficiently prepared to move from phase 2 into phase 3.